Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Sorry for the lack of uploads during the start of the free agency. I'm going to get all into that. Since this is an NFL channel, the off season, the free agency and the draft are the hottest time to make videos, or the best time to make videos. But today we're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys adding depth to their defensive line. I'm going to cover most of the Dallas Cowboys like I have the past several years because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. But let's talk about it. First, we signed Terrell Basham to a 2-year deal. And he's a veteran guy who's been productive in his snaps with Indianapolis and New York, who's just a depth piece as an outside linebacker, as a pass rusher, or a 4-3 DN considerably. And he can make plays. And once again, it's just a depth piece. So it's not too big of a signing. It's not that expensive. And I'm going to get in a little bit what this means for our current outside linebackers on our team. And then we signed Brent Urban, who is mainly a run stopper. And I find this the best signing of that. In Chicago and Baltimore, he is a very consistent run stopper. And I feel like he could fill a very much needed hole, and I think could end up being a starter. And then last, we signed Carlo Watkins, who was a former 4th-round pick for Houston, and is primarily a 4-3 DN or a 3-4 tackle or nose tackle. So he can be very versatile for us. Mainly a run stopper once again. And everyone's going to be like, these are just nobody signings. But for an individual team, it means a lot because we're adding depth. You know, if we retain or if we lose Aldon Smith, Terrell Basham can replace Aldon Smith in a way where he can be productive. He can come in and be productive. And then Brent Urban, who can play that nose tackle a little bit, who is probably the best pickup in free agency so far, is going to probably get a couple starts at defensive tackle and hopefully can be as productive stopping the run as he was in Chicago. And then Carlos Watkins, who is a guy who has a lot of potential, who really hasn't lived up to that in Houston, and we're giving him another chance. The only questions are, will all three of these guys make the roster? Probably not. I think Brent Urban and Terrell Basham will, because of the potential of Brent Urban, the upside of him, and how we need run stoppers bad, and he is that guy. And Terrell Basham, giving him the contract we did, a 2-year deal, I'm assuming he's going to be on the team. And there's other deals we did, like Jordan Lewis, which is a good one, re-signing, adding Ty Nsekhe, and a new long snapper. But I'm going to talk about all of that, but I'm just going to go in a little bit more depth of our 3 defensive lineman additions. What this means, adding depth on the defensive line in free agency in like the first wave, pretty much means that we're trying to address one of our small needs in a depth position so you don't have to worry about it in the draft. So paying a guy $6.5 million, $1.75, and then another $1.75 million contract, using up very little of the cap. Most of those are roster bonus and signing bonus. And I believe the cap hit for those 3 players is $2.8 million. So it's very, very cheap. Those 2 players are very, very cheap, and they will get a decent amount of playing time depending on their value, because we will have a preseason games this year, I'm assuming. So they'll get a chance to prove themselves in a good way or bad way. So this pretty much means that we're not going to lean on the draft to fill in those holes. And what I think this also means is that we're going to make a splash here soon. We didn't spend $20 million, $10, $15 million on a defensive tackle. We added depth to the defensive tackle, which means we haven't brought in that number 1 or number 2 defensive tackle, which means we're planning on signing one soon. Or another way is we didn't add any corner depth. We haven't signed any new corners because of these 3 signings of defensive linemen, which means that we could be making a splash for a corner. Well, and I think in Jerry Jones' mind, okay, let's address our holes in the defensive line. Added a little run stopper for depth, added an outside linebacker that replaced Aldon Smith, and add a guy with a lot of upside. We'll give him a chance in the preseason. That eliminates that depth. So our defensive line is covered because we may lose Aldon Smith. I don't know. We're definitely going to lose Tyrone Crawford and a couple of other guys. And then hopefully they pan out. If they don't, it's, low risk, high reward in this sense. But it would be a waste of a big splash, quote unquote. So there's two ways I think this leads us to. We're either going to draft linebacker or sign linebacker depth, and then draft a corner with our 10th overall pick, or we are going to add corner depth, go out and sign a star or secondary star, like draft or sign a safety, sign a veteran corner, and then draft Koromora or another linebacker at 10. Or we're going to add that linebacker depth via free agency and draft in the first 2 rounds, safety and corner. And I feel like we should add corners in free agency, because if we draft a corner 10th overall, Patrick Surtain, or anybody else, like Farley, or if anybody, J.C. Horn, if we reach for a guy, that means we're going to have 2 young corners that are number 1 and 2, which isn't the best situation, and that doesn't help us at all. So if we address our secondary via free agency, via veterans or guys who have to prove themselves, and then spend that 10th overall pick with a linebacker, Koromora, I can't even pronounce his name, Koromora, whatever. As a Notre Dame fan, I should be able to pronounce his name by now, but he's a stud. But I'm going to make more videos on this. Hopefully we sign more players, and I'm going to talk about the other re-signings for the Cowboys very, very soon. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'm going to make a bunch of little videos talking about that and then mock drafts. So, thank you guys for watching.